Teddy Covers joining us from Las Vegas, Nevada on this Friday morning. Teddy, how are you holding up this morning, my man?
Well, I'll tell you what, I've had better mornings, to be honest, Jimmy, because like Donnie, I had the Bears last night, and I was half right with that game. The Bears defense was the best unit on the field. Unfortunately, the Bears offense was the worst unit on the field. You tell me before the game, Green Bay scoring 10 tonight. How much you going to bet on Chicago? You know, as much as you can get down. But unfortunately, I mean, that was a pretty ugly offensive showing from the Bears, start to finish. And Trubisky's pick into double coverage at the end of the game just put the icing on the cake. Give you guys credit. Good call on Green Bay. Those of you who had the Packers, I was wrong on that one. Hopefully I won't be wrong all weekend, though. Just one. That's not the good thing we want going into the weekend, but it's not necessarily a harbinger of things to come.
Oh, no way. It's week one. You know, it's week one. I was on the sidelines, but I had the same thing happen to me in the Red Sox game. You had told me the Twins are going to score 2 runs. We got Martin Perez on the mound. How much are you going to bet on the Red Sox? Very, very disappointing spot there, and it hurt me very badly. Teddy Covers, let's get to work, and let's talk about your NFL looks before we get into NCAA football. And for you guys in the chat, I know that you're really enjoying having Teddy answering questions and having the live chat going on, so feel free to ask any questions on NCAA football. I will copy and paste them, and I will ask our guy Teddy Covers about them. But let's talk about this NFL card. Let me tell you what I'm on, and then we will see what you think about that, or what spots that you do like. Let me just grab here we go. This is my card at this point. This is my card at this point. I'm on let's just go quickly through and just bang out if you like it or don't like it. First off, I'm on Redskins, Eagles, under 45 at -105. What do you think of that look?
Good number. Wouldn't talk you out of it. Not anything I have a strong opinion on.
All right. Then I am on Rams, Panthers, under 50 at -105.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk you out of that one either. Again, not anything that I bet myself, but certainly not anything that I have any objection to whatsoever. Although I am concerned about, I mean, LA came out and scored 30 plus each of their first 5 games last year, despite the fact they didn't play anyone in the preseason. So that's a little bit of a concern for me in that one, but not. It's not like wouldn't talk you out of it. It's not anything that I bet the other way or was even considering a bet the other way.
I'm on Bengals, Seahawks, under 44 at -103. What do you think of that?
I wouldn't argue with that at all. Since he's going to have problems scoring in this game, they've got injuries at both tackle positions, which are a big concern, are going to Seattle. My biggest concern about this game going over would be a defensive or special team score. But these two offenses not likely to get over 44, in my opinion. No argument at all there, Jimmy.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm on Colts plus 6.5 at -105.
I have very mixed feelings about that game, to be perfectly honest. Part of me thinks that Indy is primed to play well. We like Frank Reich. We certainly like the roster that surrounds the quarterback position. We have a Chargers team, with no Derwin James, no Russell Okung, a Chargers team that struggled coming out of the gate in recent seasons. But we have the other factor, which is Jacoby Brissett against Phillip Rivers. And, I've seen enough for Brissett now to say this is not a QB who's going to be in the top half of NFL quarterbacks this year. We've seen him start for a full season. We saw him this preseason. I don't trust Brissett to move the football up and down the field. So, yeah, I can understand the lean towards Indy. I can understand playing Indy because the Chargers not an easy team to lay points with, especially this time of the year, and especially considering they have very little home field edge. But Brissett, I want to see Brissett against a real defense move the football before I bet him. So, again, I'm not talking you out of it by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not betting the other way, but it's not one I'll get to the window with Indy plus.
I'm on Lions -2.5 at -105 at the Cardinals.
So that's an impossible game for me. And talk to me about that one, Jimmy, because why do you like the Lions there? Because this is a story for me where I don't trust Detroit to lay points. Detroit stunk in the preseason. They stunk last year. They stunk last preseason. I'm not convinced they bought into Patricia. Matt Stafford doesn't win on the road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Arizona's got a bunch of stuff they haven't shown on film. Is it going to work? I don't know. Their offensive line and defensive line looked as weak as any in football in the preseason. I'm not in any rush to take the Cardinals in this one. But when you're talking about laying points with the Lions on the road, I can't get to the window with that. But again, I'm not betting the other way. So it's not anything I'm going to try to talk you out of.
I do not think that Murray is able to read defenses fast enough with that atrocious offensive line. That's the whole thinking behind this. This was a slam dunk play I wanted to make 2 months ago, and Jin Rummy made it, months and months and months ago, so that he got the pick'em price, and that's spectacular work by Jin Rummy. When I watched Patricia in the preseason, I was not going to make this bet anymore. And I don't, Patricia doesn't have a job if he's not the defensive coordinator, the pseudo defensive coordinator. We all know that Belichick is the defensive coordinator of the Patriots, and we have all these Patriot defensive coordinators that get head coaching jobs based on Belichick's work. But I think the offensive line is so weak for the Cardinals, and I don't think that Murray's capable of making fast enough decisions. It comes down to that. I think that there's a pick six involved with the Lions. I think that Murray gets a taste of how difficult it is without a good offensive line, and that's simply that. That is the main part of me making this decision.
When you talk about Patricia, it's definitely worth noting, and this is worth talking about with Brissett as well. Name me one Tom Brady backup quarterback who's gone on and had success anywhere else.
Well, hopefully we'll see that this year.
Now, yeah, exactly. Jimmy G is the one possibility of a guy who has that. The other issue, and it's very similar. Name me one former Belichick assistant that's gone on and been a great head coach somewhere.
Zero.
It's Belichick. It's all Belichick. Everything that's happened in New England for the last 20 years is one guy who was given the power to run an organization and has run it as efficiently and effectively as any coach in football. He's obsessed with details. Belichick works every night until 2 a.m. and gets up at 5 and sits at his desk and starts working again. That's what he does, and that's what he demands of his assistants. And they don't do that when they go to other jobs. They're like, oh, I'm in charge now. And with the quarterbacks, so again, getting back to the Lions and the Cardinals, it's one of these situations where anytime you see a Belichick assistant or a former Belichick QB somewhere, you downgrade them a little bit. And Patricia did nothing last year or so far this year to say, yeah, maybe he is going to be an upper echelon head coach. I've seen none of that yet. Now, Kingsbury's getting a lot of pub. And I'm with you on Murray. The rookie QB with a bunch of hype in his first start doesn't tend to go well in the NFL. But Detroit, not a team I'm excited about laying points with on the road against anybody.
I hear you, and I feel you completely. And I also don't know why people are shining all this light on Kingsbury. The guy gets fired from Tech. He's 3 losing seasons in a row. Why are people so high on Kliff Kingsbury? You know him much, much better than I. Why are people high on him?
Well, he's got a good personality, and they're friendly with him. And he's friendly with the reporters, and they find him interesting. And that's what it takes to get credit from mainstream media and college football. They got to like you. And people like Kliff Kingsbury. That's what it comes down to. In terms of will he be an effective head coach? Look, he's a charismatic guy. He's a good leader, et cetera, et cetera. There's enough. He's not one of these. He's not Bill Belichick. He's not a curmudgeon. And that will, when you're nice to the beat reporters, guess what? The beat reporters like you. And then you start getting good pub. When you're nice to all the reporters and all the reporters like you, and then you start getting good pub. That works for Kingsbury. It has so far in Arizona. How long that lasts after the Cardinals start losing is another question entirely. But coming out of the gate, he's certainly a head coach who has attracted the mainstream media's attention, which means absolutely nothing about his ability to win football games.
Yeah, that is exactly the end. That makes a ton of sense because it's not from his skill set on the sidelines, at least from what I've seen. I'm on the Giants at Cowboys. Actually, you know what I should say? There's about 4 or 5 guys who've come in liking the under in this Lions-Cardinals spot. I'm too afraid of Murray putting his team in terrible field position, and I'm a little afraid of his. He's going to go for it. It's going to be sold out, packed crowd. I'm a little worried about that under, but a lot of guys in the chat like it. What do you think of this under in Lions-Cardinals?
That is not an under I would bet. And this is why. All right. Arizona basically ran 6 plays in the preseason, and they never ran any no huddle. They never went up tempo. And I would anticipate from everything that I've read, heard, and seen is that Arizona's going to run more than 6 plays. There's going to be nothing on film. That's another issue for them. I mean, they have nothing on film about what Arizona wants to do. And do you trust Patricia to make the halftime adjustments appropriately? Not necessarily. So on the one hand, you have a high-octane offense with no film on it. On the other hand, you have a Cardinals secondary that is without, Patrick Peterson, and they got a couple other, one of the only teams that's banged up going into week 1. Arizona's got some concerns in the secondary. So, no, I wouldn't play the under in this one. Over or pass for me.
I was a little taken aback by seeing everybody on the under because it does scare me. I'm also on the Giants-Cowboys under 45.5 at -103.
You like these totals, Jimmy. You're a total guy, huh? More than the sides in the NFL? Is that tend to be your MO, or is it just what it stood out for week 1?
For me, I've been going over what went wrong, what went right last year, what went wrong, what went right the last 2 years because I have all that information still from being down here. And I hit on unders in week 1 and week 2 at a higher percentage than I do anything else.
That's fair enough. You know what? I want to talk about that before I talk about this game for a minute, if that's okay, Jimmy, because I'll stand on a soapbox for a minute. But what Jimmy just said might be the single most important piece of advice you out there in Viewerland are getting all day, all week, all month. Track your results. Get yourself a spreadsheet and track every bet you make. Every one of them. And then, when you're not all freaked out in the off season, go look at every bet you made and say, this is what's working, this is what isn't working. Wow, I struggled with favorites early in the season. Wow, I struggled with underdogs mid-season. Wow, my overs in week 1 and week 2 were garbage. Whatever it is, you will find patterns. You will find things that maybe you're a little bit better at or maybe you're a little bit worse at. That self-examination, you're cross-examining yourself. Was this a good bet? Why did I make this bet? Was the rationale right? I call it a post-mortem. I try to do it every week with my bets. What can I learn? What did I do wrong? What was a good bet? What was stupid? Did I bet at the right time? Did I bet at the wrong time? Every single wager after you make it deserves a second look to help you for your next group of wagers. So what Jimmy was talking about, hey, I've got every bet I made for the last 2 years in the NFL right here. Do that. If you don't, I mean, that's to get to the next level. Those are the type of things that you have to do, is track them accurately. Don't forget stuff. You want to make sure that you have, your half times and your in games, and every bet that you make is going to get tracked. When it comes to the Giants and the Cowboys and the total for this ball game, I wouldn't talk at it, but I absolutely have no feel for this game at all. This is not a game I'm even close to betting on this weekend. I don't know if Dallas is going to air it out. I don't know what the receiving core is going to look like. I don't know if Zeke's going to be ready. I don't know if Saquon's going to go nuts in this game. I don't know if Eli's going to be throwing downfield or it's all dink and dunk. I do trust the Cowboys defense. That's the one unit out of the 4 that I really trust. I like Dallas defensively. But other than that, I've got a ton of question marks about that game. And for me, that's a game I have to watch, but I cannot bet, at least not before kickoff.
I'm a little upset that I've made as many bets as I've made. I was hoping to only have like 3 or 4, but I did cut down my unit size for week 1. So at least I did that. These are 3/4 unit bets, not full unit bets. The only full unit bet is the Ravens bet that I made 2 weeks ago. Moving in the right direction there. I wish I only made 4, but it's hard. It's just, and it's something that you're helping me with. Jin Rummy's helping me with. And I did it last night. I did not bet on the first game of the NFL season because what? Because I need to scratch that itch? No, I enjoyed it. I watched it. I studied it, had a beer, and I didn't lose my mind watching it. All right, let's move on to college college football. We have some questions here from the chat. I have copied and pasted them. Anybody in the chat who has more questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat, and I will ask. We have this game. It keeps being talked about. We can't get away from this Maryland Syracuse game. Everybody wants to know about it. This huge swing from one team to the other makes me just not want to play it. But Bookie Lover Q starts. He says, ask Teddy about Maryland. I was on them before the line move.
So I ran into this stat this morning. You'll like this one. Since November 2013, Maryland, coming off a home game in which they covered, 0-15 against the spread. Yikes.
Wow.
The Terps have not been able to put together 2 good games in a row. I had Syracuse last week at Liberty, and there were some real concerns for me in that. I got the win. I got the money. There were some big concerns to me in that game about Tommy DeVito's ability to throw the football around. And this is a kid who I wasn't necessarily impressed with when he got his opportunities to back up last year. He came in with, the reports and the reviews were good from DeVito at camp. And then we saw it against Liberty that, a lot of dink and dunks. Very little of the acumen that his predecessor had for Syracuse last year. So I've got my concerns about the Orange. But when it comes to the 2 defenses, boy, I got Syracuse's defense ranked a whole lot fair bit higher than Maryland. This is a game I was kind of on the fence on, and I understood why the Maryland money came because of DeVito. But if I had to play the game now, and I don't, but if I had to play it, I would take Syracuse plus before I laid anything with Maryland. That 0-15 angle certainly stands out.
Yeah, and that's what Comic Ricky says. My guy Comic Ricky says, I took Q's plus 2.5, and Big Ragoo says, that's a winner right there. That's a winner, Ricky. Interesting. Okay, you would take Syracuse plus 2.5 right now. All right, Dolo. Our guy Dolo says Ohio versus Pittsburgh. He's on Ohio at plus 4. And that was something, I believe we had it at plus 5, about 48 hours ago. Ohio versus Pittsburgh. Dolo's on Ohio plus 4.
Yeah, this is a very popular wise guy choice. In fact, this game opened as high as 6. Was sitting at 5 for most of the week and bet down to 4 in the last 24 hours. So unfortunately, you didn't get the best of the number. That being said, from a pure power rating standpoint, my number on this game was 1. So you can make a case that Ohio U is every bit as good player for player as Pitt is. Disappointing loss for Pitt last week. It's in theory a bounce back spot for them. But, so it's just squad. They hang tough year in, year out. They've been able to step up in class. I have no problems whatsoever taking the Bobcats plus the points in this one, although unfortunately, the number has gotten away from you a little bit. But I don't freak out. If it moves from 5 to 4, again, once in a while that will hurt you. You want to get the best of the number every time. But when it's not moving off of a key number, you can't say, I'm definitely not going to play it because it moved from 5 to 4. No, it's okay. If it lands 5, you're screwed, and it happened, and that does happen sometimes. But from a percentage standpoint, not likely to happen very often compared to when it moves off of a 3 or a 7 or a 10 or a 14 or the other key numbers in football.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Nothing Ordinary Sports says I'll take Ohio money line. And I was sorry, Big Roo was talking about Ricky being on the Giants at plus 7.5. Backing Eli at plus 7.5. Man, I can't wait for that game. I can't wait for all these games. Yes, Let's W. I will copy and paste that. We've got a bunch of questions first for Teddy, but I will get to that. Next question is from our Brooke Jordan, whom we love dearly. She says, will Western Michigan cover the spread against Michigan State? And Andrew Wojcicki, who is our guy as well, says, I'd say yes, Brooke. State can't blow out anybody. Teddy covers.
That's it. It's a fascinating game. Sparty last week, their defense was absolutely insanely dominant. All right, their offense couldn't do anything against Tulsa. The question is that Sparty? Is that week 1 jitters? Or is that Tulsa's defense? And honestly, every report all summer is Michigan State's opening up the offense this year. Returning quarterback, the work he can play, the offensive line's there. Expect to see points for the Spartans. And it didn't show in week 1. That doesn't mean that I automatically downgrade the Spartans. What they wanted to do offensively in the offseason, it didn't work. It didn't take. This is the game that we find that out. Because, number one, Tulsa's defense is good. And you grade them out, they're really good. And that's why they're laying points at San Jose this week. And I'm interested in the Hurricanes laying almost a touchdown on the road. That's how good that defensive front is. Second is that Sparty's defense isn't giving up anything to anyone. That's defense is there. But it's also a one-way rivalry game. Western Michigan, this is the biggest game of the year for a lot of these kids. And for Michigan State, not so much. And we've seen the kids from Kalamazoo come into East Lansing and win straight up on more than one occasion since I've been in Las Vegas. So it's a game that when Michigan State's not paying attention, they can get slapped around. But my impression is Sparty's paying attention this week. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that offense open up a little bit against a weaker defense they faced last week. I wouldn't take the dog in this one, even though, like I said, it is a one-way rivalry in the other direction. I think Sparty, there's a big class difference here. And I think Michigan State has the potential to light up the scoreboard. And if they don't, this will be the week that I downgrade Sparty in my power rating significantly because that offense isn't working. One game wasn't enough for me to make any type of significant adjustment, especially because their defense was the most dominant unit on the field.
Oh man, that's an exciting game. Our Trotwam and Nothing Ordinary Sports says Western Michigan will cover. 40-ounce beer belly dude is on 2 looks, and the second look I've seen a lot of people on. He's on the under on Boise, and he says Washington covers over Cal. What do you think of those 2 spots for our guy, 40-ounce beer belly dude?
The first one I hate. The second one I love. I like the first one. I hate and love is too strong for that. First one I like, the second one I don't. Or the first one I don't like. I expect I have money in my pocket on Marshall Boise State over tonight, and I'm not expecting an under in that game. This is what Marshall can do. Okay, this is not a defense that's going to stop Boise. All right, if Boise wants to run, they'll be able to run. If Boise wants to throw, they'll be able to throw. I expect them to have a balanced attack. And again, this is an offense that ran 105 plays last week. Boise capable of ball control and putting the ball in the end zone. Marshall's defense isn't going to stop that. But I do think the Thundering Herd are capable of putting up some points in this one. Plenty of skill position talent, a veteran quarterback, and an offensive line who can protect them. I think it might be the best offensive line in CUSA. So I'm looking for an over tonight on the blue turf in Boise. The second game was the one Washington. Yeah. Okay, so here's the story, right? Huskies lose a 4-year starter at quarterback in Jake Browning, NFL player. I think they're better. Browning's a stiff. Browning was a stiff. Browning couldn't get the job done against good defenses ever. And they don't have that problem anymore with Easton. Not any stretch. And the problem I have with laying with Washington and why it didn't make my card is I still believe in that Cal defense. That Cal defense shut down the Huskies last year. The 12-10 final. Washington was laying 3 touchdowns. They didn't even get the 3 touchdowns. Didn't even sniff 3 touchdowns. And that Cal defense might be every bit as good this year as it was a season ago. Wilcox hasn't found an offense yet, but defensively, Cal might be a tough team to lay points against. So I lean Washington. I have not pulled the trigger with an actual wager on the Huskies yet. And I won't at 14. If it gets to 13 and back down to 13.5, I'd be much more likely to pull the trigger than I would at the full 2 touchdowns.
I like it. We want to hear what made your card, so I don't. We have too many questions coming in. I will take a look at these 2 here, though, because they put so much energy and time into our show. First is our guy Bleds W says, can you ask Teddy about the Auburn game? We have been talking about it all week, but Bleds W deserves the love. Can you ask Teddy about the Auburn game? And we've spoken about it. Has anything changed in your analysis, and are you making a move on Saturday?
No, I'm really not going to play the game. I don't know that this is an opponent that Auburn's going to be fully focused against, and Tulane can be tricky if Auburn is not fully focused. Look, there's a lot of love for Willie Fritz in the betting markets here in Vegas, and I can understand why. He's been he's a head coach that people seem to be drawn to in the Kliff Kingsbury kind of a way, which doesn't make him a bad head coach or a good head coach. It means that he's a good leader of men. And it's clearly shown the Tulane program much better now than it was when Willie Fritz got there. So I don't know if Auburn is fully focused, but I don't know if it matters. Tulane jumped out on FIU last week and led 21-0 early and blew them out early in that ball game. As the game progressed, it was a 2-way game, and maybe that early start, you don't want to make the hot start early. You don't want to make too much of it, but this is not an explosive offense. This is not an offense I trust to put up points against Auburn, and it's not an offense that I trust, a defense that I trust to get stops against the Tigers either. So it's from a spot standpoint, it's a clear Tulane spot. But I don't know if the matchups work as well, and from a point spread standpoint, it's relatively cheap for an SEC team at home in a game where they will hold big edges on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Man, yeah, because I was really making a case for Tulane earlier in the week, and I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger. Final question, and then I'd like to hear what you like best, is from our big Ragu. He says, Jimmy, I really want Teddy's look on Miami, North Carolina. Nobody is really talking this game, and I have a major opinion here. Teddy covers. We watched the Hurricanes in that week 0 game. All of us, all the guys together down in Miami. Do you like them here this Saturday?
So this is a fascinating game. You can make a case that North Carolina is a team, in a sense, that's like Louisville, where last year's results were so bad, and the team, they quit on the coach and quit on their season. And as soon as a new coach comes in, they're automatically 10 points better because the personnel on hand is a lot better than the way they played a year ago, and the powering numbers are wrong on North Carolina coming into the season because of their failures. So you can make a case the Tar Heels are and continue to be an undervalued commodity coming into the season. All that being said, Miami's real, and I think North Carolina's got a little bit of work to do. And because of that, and I don't know that I want to lay with Darren Williams and making his first road start. I'm pretty confident I don't. But there was a big move towards the Tar Heels early in the week, and the money came back the other way. Wise guys just said North Carolina's focus might not be there off the big win against South Carolina.
Wow. I can't wait to hear Ragu break that game down. Do check it out Saturday mornings. Ragu, Big Boss, Babano, and Drew Martin. Check it out. Sean Childress is on North Carolina +5. Let's move on to what you like. Let's move on to what you are interested in for this Saturday. We've thrown a bunch of questions to you. We've asked you questions all week long. We've heard breakdowns through all these games all week long. What has your attention? What moves will you be making on Saturday? Oh, we have, okay, bring it back. All right, we lost Teddy's audio there for a second. We're going to get Teddy's audio.
No, my fault.
There we go. Okay, Teddy back in action. Yeah. I thought that would have been a hilarious move, though. A hilarious move when we want to know Teddy's card.
Yeah. Live audio. But I was coughing during the breaks. I hit the mute and then forgot to put it back on. All my fault. No, human. Damn it, I hate being human. I like Rutgers, plus the points at Iowa. Looking at the Scarlet Knights as a team, I like the fact that they got slapped around early last week and then responded well to that adversity and played a great game the rest of the way. This is a Rutgers team that got blown out in every road game last year. Now, this one a little bit circled after getting dominated in every road game last year from the quotes I was reading from Chris Ash this week. And Iowa's just not a blowout team. So I took Rutgers plus the 20. I think there's still 19.5s out there. But that was one that stood out to me. Late night action, I like Minnesota. Minus the 3 at Fresno. Late night, they beat Fresno last year. They stole the game from Fresno. Fresno was like, we got this one circled. So do the Gophers. We saw last week, again, USC completely dominated Fresno. Then the quarterback got hurt, and they were just trying to get out of town. And the next thing you know, the Fresno's in the end, throwing for the end zone at the end of the game with a chance to tie it. I don't see, again, Minnesota's quarterback gets hurt. That might happen here, but Fresno is not as good as they were last year. That was very clear to me last week. And the fact that they showed up and covered against USC, I think there's legit value betting against them. And, they're in revenge mode. A game that came down to the wire last year, an interception in the end zone. Saved the game for Minnesota. Gophers know Fresno's coming to play. I think Minnesota brings their A game. I like Minnesota minus the points in Fresno. And how about the late night bailout special? We talked about that over in Hawaii, right? They're betting the under right now. It's down to 77. Where does Hawaii get stops in this game? Where does Oregon State get stops in this game? Both teams are going to throw the ball 40, 50 times. Pace is be insane. You got to stay up till 3 a.m. on the East Coast to watch it. But I like Oregon State, Hawaii over the total, especially now the number's been bet down. Again, 77.5 on the SBR odds screen as we speak.
Look at those moves. I like those moves. We got Rutgers plus the points. We got Minnesota -3. And Teddy gave us Minnesota -3 early in the week. We had people liking Fresno. We had people backing Fresno early in the week. And then Teddy started talking about Minnesota. And right now, we have people backing Minnesota. We have Pink Eye Genie on Minnesota -3. We have Shell Dog on the Gophers. Also, Nothing Ordinary Sports says, I don't like Iowa. Says, I like Rutgers too. Iowa lost Noah Fant. And Andy Harris saying Oregon State should switch QBs. I like this look. I like the look of all three of these spots. Teddy is on Rutgers, Minnesota -3, and the Hawaii over. Love this. Teddy covers. Teddy covers. Let's switch quickly back to NFL. What are your favorite looks in the NFL come this Sunday?
I didn't go nuts for week 1 by any stretch of the imagination. I laid with Baltimore. I laid early, 4.5 with the Ravens. Obviously, even at 6.5, I understand that's a one-way game. That the books are only taking Ravens money. No one's betting Miami. I don't care. I don't. I don't know what the Dolphins are going to do to be competitive this year. I certainly don't know what they're going to do to be competitive week 1. And we know what Baltimore did last year, 47-3 on opening day. That stands out. I laid with Philly. I understand that the number's gone up. I laid 8. I think it was 8.5 or 8. I got to look on my spreadsheet where I'm tracking all of my results. But I laid 8.5. Even at 10 right now, I don't want any part of the Redskins coming into the season. No part whatsoever of Washington. And the way I'm looking to make money for week 1 of the NFL season is to find some of the very worst teams and bet against them, and or find some of the very best teams and bet on them. The markets are not in tune with how bad the bad teams are. That's why I don't mind betting against a Miami or against a Washington in week number 1. Those are the two that stood out to me from a side standpoint. It's not a week where I went nuts making bets. We'll get there in the NFL, but week 1 wasn't a week where there were a bunch of games jumping off the page at me. I kept it fairly light for myself and my clients this week.
That makes a ton of sense. I would like to hear your thoughts before we put a bow on this on the big Sunday nighter. God, how exciting is this Sunday nighter going to be? Steelers, Patriots. I was close to pulling the trigger on the Steelers +6. Donnie's on the Patriots. What I did last year, and it really worked, was when I had a play, if Donnie and Whale-Capper were on the other side, I just let it go. And that really, really worked for me. As soon as I started doing that, my numbers started, my ROI and my unit size started, or my units started going up very quickly. So I might do that here with Donnie on the Patriots. Do you have a feel on this game? And do you think that Belichick is not going to open up the playbook because there is a fear that these teams could meet in the playoffs? Do you think that Belichick throws a very pedestrian offense at Tomlin? And so what are your thoughts on the side and the total in the big Sunday nighter?
So my thoughts on New England in general coming into the season, this is a team, Jimmy, don't expect to see Brady throwing the football 30 times a game. This is a team that's going to be built on running the football and playing defense. And teams that are built on running the football and playing defense tend to be under teams. And you don't see a lot of 50s. This was high as 53 at the open. 49 and a half right now. The Patriots, again, we saw the last two NFL real games that we've seen have both been defensive scrums, let's just say, in New England and LA in the Super Bowl, and then the Bears and the Packers last night. But don't be surprised if we see more of that from the Patriots this season. That was Belichick's MO coming into the league. That's what Belichick, he doesn't mind uglying it up. And I come into the season thinking that Pittsburgh is a little bit undervalued. I don't think they lose a ton, despite the fact that both Brown and Bell have moved on to greener pastures. It's not like they don't have weapons at receiver or running back. It's not like they don't have big play guys for Big Ben to deal with. But against this defense, I'm expecting a fairly conservative game plan. This one doesn't feel like a shootout to me. I lean under, although, again, I haven't bet it, and I already missed the best of the number, so I'm probably not going to bet it. But if I had a free wager for this game, that'd be the one I would make.